Hi everyone, my name is Robin Vanessa, for those of you who don't know me, and I wanted to hop on and do this video that has been on my heart for the last almost 2 years. Today I realized from Facebook land that it is Autism Awareness Day or week or month. I'm still learning. I don't know a lot of things. But I figured now is the time to share a glimpse into my family's journey into autism with you guys and kind of just give you some ideas of what we noticed when our son was a baby and what we've done to help him move forward and just kind of how it is. So I have a little boy named Lincoln. He is 2.5 years old now, and I have something in my eye. I'm not tearing up yet. He is diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and I am still learning all this, so I might not say things correctly, so just bear with me. I might not say things right. It's okay. So he was diagnosed with autism at, I think, 20 months old. And we definitely noticed red flags from when he was a baby, like before he was walking or anything like that. Like, probably like 8 months old, around there. Like we were like, it's interesting, like you kind of chalk it up to like, okay, maybe that's just his personality. Oh, that's a cute quirk. But when you go to your pediatrician appointments, they definitely give you like a checklist of things to look out for. And I would always like justify like, okay, he's not waving, but I did see him like move his hand like this one time. Yeah, he's waving. Check. Like I don't know why. It was just something like we definitely went through like a denial phase for sure. You just want everything to be perfect, and you hope for the best and you're optimistic and you think he'll grow out of it. And, people are always telling us, oh, he's a boy, it takes longer, or he doesn't have any siblings. So it's, things like that, which make you feel better at the time, but they also don't really help you, move forward. So I would just recommend for you guys when you're filling out those little pre-screeners and milestone checklists at the pediatrician's office, just be honest. Just be very honest. And worst case scenario, you get help for your child. And if he does grow into it or out of it, then great. So anyways, my little tidbit there. But fast forward. So so just a little history. He's my first child. The pregnancy with him was phenomenal. Like I felt like a superhero, like super clear-headed, just cute, like strong. There were no medical issues, nothing. Like it was such an easy, awesome pregnancy. He literally came knocking on the door on his due date at 40 weeks. So he was full term. We got to do a natural birth at the hospital. So no medical intervention or anything like that. Everything was perfect. It was like such an easy, awesome, perfect pregnancy and birth. He was a really great baby. And now looking back, I kind of see why he was so perfect. He's just a very independent human. He doesn't really need anyone. He figures things out on his own. He's in his own little world. So as a baby, he was just easy. And I got to stay home with him, and I run a daycare. So I also, and I was a teacher before that. So I'm very used to children and where they're at, in their development. So I know every single child learns so differently, and is so different, but you definitely see common trends, milestones, and what kids are starting to do at a certain age and that type of thing. And so I definitely always noticed that Lincoln was a little bit different. And again, you chalk it up to oh, it's just his personality. But at a certain point, it's like, it gets to be like, okay, there's definitely something here that we need to address. And early intervention is key, I've learned. And it has made a huge difference. So I will share what we did for that. But basically at 18 months, we're waiting for him to talk or say words. He always babbled and made sounds. Some other little red flags we had at that before 18 months, I would say, is he never responded to his name. He didn't really seem to notice other people in the room. He is always super affectionate and loves his mama and dada, and is smiley and happy and will engage to a certain extent. But for the most part, he will just pretend you're not in the room, especially if he doesn't know you. He just is not a social being whatsoever. Go, baby. And he always was just kind of in his own little world. He never really played with the other kids. He really had a fascination with small, like, objects. So he would just zone into these objects for a long time and really analyze and observe and manipulate. And he would, like, do this little humming sound where he would, like, look at it and he'd be like, and he always looked at things funny too. Like, there was definitely a visual thing going on, and still he goes through phases of doing certain things. Stimming, I've learned, is what it's called. But he would, like, side-eye things a lot, and move things, look at things weird. Like, almost like if you were, like, tripping out on drugs. That's kind of what it reminded me of. What else? Okay, so those were definitely some things, like some head shaking, like looking at things, just that type of thing, or some of the early quirks, we'll call them. And then, so fast forward to 20 months, he's still not talking, 0 words, nothing. There's no gestures, there's no communication, so there's no pointing or handing me things. It's a huge guessing game of what Lincoln needs, like his basic needs. He doesn't look at you, he doesn't, like, give you clues, like, he just whines and he's in his own little world. So another suggestion I have is just, like, entering that world, forcing yourself into that world, engaging, getting in his face, in a good way, obviously, and just being a part of his world. We've come a long way with that. So once we noticed that there was a definite delay, we went on to, our state of Arizona has an early intervention program. I'm sure every state does. Ours is called AZIP. So I just Googled it, and I was able to refer my own son. And they called me back pretty quickly and set up, like, this was all during the pandemic. So everything was phone call and Zoom. And they just did, like, a little interview, and they asked me a ton of questions about, you know, things he does, yes, no's, just all this stuff. And he qualified for services. So then I met through Zoom with a team of therapists, and this was all paid for by the state. And they did another little interview, and also observed him. And he, for us, we were able to qualify for one service, whether it was speech, occupational, or whatever. And so the biggest bang for our buck was occupational. And so we qualified for that, and now we meet with an amazing therapist once a week through Zoom. And so she mostly coaches me on, like, how to meaningfully play with Lincoln, where he is exercising his communication skills. Let me show you an example. Hey. So he's spinning that object. Spinning objects is another way of stimming. And he will just play with that one object for a long time, and it keeps him busy. He's in his own little world. He's doing that little like humming sound as he plays with things. So there's definitely things that he still does. It's really interesting. Anyways, I forgot what I was okay. So yeah, we've been doing the therapies once a week, and we just she mostly coaches me, teaches me some activities I can do with him, kind of what we're already doing at home, but enhancing it. Like, okay, and teaching me why we want to do things a certain way, and what to look out for, and just so much insight into what's going on in his brain. So it's been super helpful for me as a mom, so that I know I don't know anything really. I'm learning every day, but I'm starting to understand how his head works and how I can help him. So he is now 2.5 years old. He is still not talking. We're working on like him communicating his needs. So it's like through emotions, which he still isn't doing. Pointing, like things that typical kids just seem to innately do at a young age. Like we're having to teach him, like handing me things. That was a huge goal we had, was him, if he needs help with opening something or whatever, like him coming over to me and handing me it was a huge thing, and he's now doing that, which has been a huge help. So as a mom, it was super frustrating when your child isn't able to communicate to you, and a lot of times when they can't communicate, they whine, they cry, they have tantrums, whatever, because they're not able to communicate. So it's very frustrating and hard. I would definitely suggest the early intervention and staying patient, really learning your child's cues, getting into their world. And now we're at a point where he's still not talking, but everything is okay. Like, he is such a good kid. He is loving. His brain functions differently. He has different interests. He's just not a very social being. And so in today's world, like, there's so many like awkward interactions with people and stuff, and you just have to like learn how you want to handle it, because it's not going away. So just being upfront to people so that they understand, and it's not this weird, like, awkward thing. We're excited for his future. He is going to be starting a developmental preschool. There's lots of resources and services out there. So I would say just don't be in denial if you suspect this. I forgot to tell you about the diagnosis. Like, there are so many different places that will diagnose autism, and so I just called them, set up an appointment. They had me come into office. They watched him play, and they did a bunch of like social and cognitive tests and determined that he has autism. And now that he has that diagnosis, he qualifies for so many services and resources. So I can see why and how a parent would be in denial and maybe not want to face this. But I would just strongly encourage you to just move forward and get intervention, get the diagnosis, get them help, because it's going to help. And I don't know where we would be without the intervention. So that's a little glimpse into our journey. I am still learning. It's going to be an adventure, and I've got 2 more boys on the way. So I know, I'm not sure if it's because it's harder to identify autism in females, but they say like it's so much more prevalent in boys. And so that's something that we have to think about. I am here for you if you have any questions. please reach out. And I hope you guys have a good day. Goodbye.